Today's session on marketing here is essentially going to give you guys some principles on what you guys should be doing for marketing. In general, there's only a couple means that you can actually do your marketing when it comes to real estate. And some of these you probably already seen, right? So big one is going to be those "we buy houses for cash" signs. I see them kind of put on different, maybe it's like main roads or different trees or even on people's lawns. Another one is going to be word of mouth, right? Email lists is another one. Letters, like physically dropping off letters, postcards, signs, and then any form of digital marketing. Okay, a couple nuances for each of the ones. I'll go into that a little bit later, but in general, today I'll be giving you guys about 8 different principles that we use for marketing, right? Now, this is going to be a little bit more focused on the digital side of marketing. Then we'll jump into the other forms of marketing, such as dropping off letters. A lot of those are pretty old school, right? It'll give you guys new ways, especially for the ones that use social media to get leads. So first one is going to be, now this is for both marketing online and offline, and that's going to be volume wins. Okay. All this means essentially the more volume you're doing for your marketing, the better chance you're going to have. My analogy for marketing is throwing a cast with like my fishing line, right? I cast my line and that's my one type of marketing. Well, if I cast different multiple lines, I'm doing a bunch of marketing, I'm doing a ton of volume, that's just going to increase my chances, right? So that means I'm going on marketing on social media. I'm like using all social media. I'm doing a mix of letters as well. I'm doing a mix of in-person networking, a mix of signs, right? For me personally, because I'm more so on the buy side, I actually let the city's wholesalers do the work for me in the sense that, you know, those signs, "we buy houses for cash," I'll actually call those numbers and I'll tell them, hey, I'm not looking to sell my house, but I'm actually a buyer. And I'll introduce myself and I'll get to know them and I'll tell them what kind of deals I'm looking for. That way, I don't have to go around and, you know, have a what's called a burner phone or have a second phone number and then put out my own signs, right? I just don't find it the best use of my time. Now, for someone starting, let's say you're a wholesaler and you really want to focus on that, that might be a good use of your time. However, specific to those bandit signs is what we call it. You want to make sure you follow a couple rules. Okay, maybe you've heard me talk about this before, but it is a gray area, meaning it's not illegal, but it's also not legal in the sense that you shouldn't be putting any type of advertising on places that you don't own, which means that, hey, if you put those "we buy houses" signs on your own properties and places that you own and your own establishments, that's totally okay. It's once you start putting them on like mail posts or like transit signs or those posts or different trees in their neighborhood. If you don't own that piece of land or property, what you need to do is put those bandit signs on at about 5 p.m., 5:30 on a Friday evening, and then take them down by Sunday afternoon. The reason for that is bylaw officers don't work on weekends. So that's kind of like you're bypassing the rules a little bit. Just make sure if you do too much of those signs, like that's kind of where the law of volume wins. Doesn't necessarily work in that if you have too many of those signs and you don't take them down properly, you could get a call from a bylaw officer. But in general, volume does win. And that's why I like to use and leverage other wholesalers' signs. And I'll just call the signs that are all around the city, get to know the wholesalers. And then that way I get to see, okay, who's actually wholesaling, and I can get on their list. I can find out what deals they're looking for. And if I want to co-wholesale, I can start talking to them about that, or I can start working with them, right? Now, next law is going to be perfect fails. So what do I mean by this? This means that your marketing doesn't have to be perfect, right? Just start putting it out there. Have a system for your daily Facebook posts, right? Every day I'm posting on Facebook, and sometimes it's about the real estate coaching. Sometimes I'm just talking about educating real estate investors. Sometimes I'm straight up asking for deals, but it's just putting the content out there, right? Even when it comes to your bandit sign, right? If you're going to put the physical paper, the physical marketing out there, whether it's a letter or a bandit sign, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Don't overthink your marketing, right? You'll see me make spelling mistakes all the time. Who cares? It shows that you're an actual real person. And especially if you're looking for deals, you don't necessarily want to appear like a perfect company, right? People will feel more, let's say, comfortable dealing with you if they get like, that's why those like fake handwritten letters seem to do very well when you're putting those letters in people's mailboxes, because people think that it's a real letter. Now, the best case for making it that it's less perfect is that you actually wrote a letter. That's not really the best use of your time again. So there are apps that you can use where I forgot the app what it's called, but if you just Google how to turn your writing into font, like a typing font, it's like a service you can pay for, and you can take your handwriting and turn it into a font. And then that way now when you type, it looks like it's handwritten by you, right? Another one is when this principle of perfect fails is that when you're making your social media content, right? You don't have to be perfect, right? Especially if you put too much, let's say, effort and what's the word? Not editing, but
Hey, if you guys have been enjoying Patrick's videos with him sharing his wisdom, make sure to help our channel out by hitting the like and subscribe button. Let us know what videos we should film next in the comment section. And also make sure to check out the links in the description below and apply to get your free personalized real estate roadmap.
let's say you just put too like your video quality is too nice, like that could actually be a thing and it can hurt you. So some of the best performing videos are actually just you talking to the screen. Maybe you have a friend with you. The algorithm seems to benefit when there's more people on your screen, right? Not just you all the time. And that's going to get people's attention. Your goal is to essentially have it that the people watching, who are going to be your future clients, future buyers, future sellers, understand who you are. Because again, this is all almost kind of branding play when it comes to your marketing, right? Your goal is to get them to know, hey, what's your favorite food? As random as that sounds, and as far away from real estate as that sounds. What are the things that you dislike, right? What are your favorite places to go and things that your favorite things to do, right? Your favorites, once you get a good enough brand through your marketing, once your fans and your followers know your favorites, that's when you know you're doing something very well, right? But you don't have to overthink it, right? Just make sure that you're understanding that, hey, perfect fails. You don't have to be perfect when it comes to making your marketing both online and offline. Got Calvin and Getty in the room. Awesome. Number 3 is respect the terms of service. Okay. Every social media platform has certain terms of service, right? You guys probably hear this about getting like shadow banned. Basically, there's certain topics that you don't necessarily want to talk about, even if you're super passionate about it. Just stay away from it, right? It is going to hurt your reach. And the other side of this when it comes to real world is just respect the law, right? That's kind of why I talked about those bandit signs. It is a little bit of a gray area. So you kind of want to understand those bylaws. And that's why I say, like, hey, if you want to, the best way is if you had a bunch of properties, which some of you guys do, some of you guys don't, is to just put those lawn signs of "We buy houses for cash" on your own properties. That's fully respecting the law. The terms of service is like the online version of that. But if you don't, that's why I say with those bandit signs, use them on Friday afternoon, evening, and then take them down Sunday afternoon. Right. Online, again, there's just certain topics you like shouldn't talk about. you are going to get shadow banned. It's going to reduce your reach, and then now you can't get enough people to see your marketing, and that's obviously going to hurt your business. Next one, number 4. This is going to be something that we'll talk on a little bit near the end, but it's focus on bottom right messaging. Actually, you know what? I'm going to share this right now. Now that we're here, it's going to save it till the end. But so bottom right messaging. So I'll explain what that means. Let me just share my screen here. Awesome. There we go. So we're going to make a matrix here. This is actually from Contrarian Investing, but it's actually been adapted to making your content, right? So content is just another word for making your marketing. So there's 2 parts here. There's going to be the wrong and right matrix, wrong and right. And then here on the side is going to be consensus, and then non-consensus. Consensus just means that everyone agrees. Non-consensus is that not everyone agrees. So when you're making your topics for your marketing, and again, like, yeah, we want to focus on the real estate side, sharing our content and our knowledge about real estate, making sure people know that we're real estate investors. But as a branding play, you also want to talk about other things that, you know, interest you and also get eyeballs, right? So consensus, if I think something is wrong and everyone else thinks something is wrong, I probably shouldn't be talking about that, right? Now, if I think something is right and true, but everyone else also agrees with me, well, that's not necessarily the best use as well. Like, you're just going to get people that are kind of in the middle and they'll just agree with it, and that's about it. Now, if I think something is wrong, but other people might not agree with it, still, it's not the best reach. What we're looking for is what's called contrarian thinking. It's that I think it's right, but not everyone else thinks the same. And if you look at the best performing pieces of marketing that you'll pull out, it's most likely going to sit here. Something that you think is right, but not everyone else agrees with. One of my best performing videos is going to be the video where I basically talk about, like Matthew mentions Top G. So if you guys heard about Andrew Tate, he has some strong opinions, right? And ideas that he thinks is right, but not everyone agrees, right? My best performing video is why I don't have a phone case on my phone, okay? I believe that I don't use a phone case. I mean, it allows me to pay attention to my phone. I can fiddle around with it and treat it almost like, got this from Neil deGrasse Tyson, where he treats it like a gun, where it's like, you know, gunslingers swing their gun. That's why they don't drop it. But not everyone's going to agree with that. And a lot of people put on their comments, you get a bunch of eyeballs, and then that's the pieces of content that you want to make aside from the real estate side. Because if we just focus on just the real estate marketing content of educating our people, showing them what we do, what that tends to do is just become how-to content, right? How to do this, right? And you see me do a lot of that as well, especially because, you know, I'm a coach, it does help. But a lot of that how-to content is for you guys, is for people that are already my clients or people that have already helped, right? To get new eyeballs in, you're going to want to sit in this area of, hey, you think it's right, but not necessarily everyone is going to agree with that, right? A little bit of that tension. Awesome. Questions, comments, critiques, concerns on that? I'm going to check on the Facebook side as well. So that's focusing on the bottom right messaging, right? Cool. Okay, yeah, we're good. Awesome. Okay. Gonna exit this screen share and we'll jump into the next one. Cool. So next is going to be, you want a sustainable pattern interrupt. Again, this is going to be both online and offline, right? But essentially this idea is that you want it to grab their attention, right? And you'll see that I always use a comparison of in-person marketing is going to be those bandit signs or those letters, but you want it to like be something that's eye-catching, right? You see a lot of yellows being used, black and yellow, pink and white, blue with like white, and it's really something that you want to stick out, right? Something that I'll use when it comes to letter writing is that you might have to train people to do this, is that when I make the letters, I won't fold it perfectly. I'll fold it where it's like fat, and then I'll put the fat letter into the letter. So that when they get it, they're like, oh, like what's this letter that's in their mail? Right? It's like it's folded, it's like fat folded, so it's sticking out, right? It pops a little more compared to just folding it perfectly, and then that's just like the same type of letter that they always get, right? With your pattern interrupts in online marketing, it's going to be something that makes it pop out, right? You see, I've trained a little bit of my team and they've actually started using this. I just give them the main idea of like, hey, let's use pattern interrupts. How they've interpreted that is you'll see some of my videos, there'll be like different auras or like special effects in the beginning or a quick movement in the beginning to grab someone's eye. Someone who's really good at this is Alex Hormozi. I don't know if you guys have seen some of his content, but that guy is literally like a walking pattern interrupt, right? He's super jacked, has a crazy beard, and then just wears like wife beaters and then makes videos in like his mom's basement. But he talks about $100 million deals, right? That's something that like doesn't connect. And any pattern interrupt is just something that changes the script a little bit. And everyone here does have a script, right? If you look at your content, even for myself, right? We're always almost talking about the same thing, documenting the same type of thing. But if we add a pattern interrupt, all of a sudden, it changes it a little bit, right? It makes it so like, oh, like, well, I didn't know Patrick was talking about, or I didn't know Raymond was talking about that, or Calvin never really talked about that. Those are what you want to add in there. And you want to look for something that when they look at you, it almost doesn't make sense, right? I was actually joking around with my girlfriend around this, and I was like, hey, like, I could just dye my hair, do like something that would just pop a little bit, right? Ryan Panetta does that. It's all these little things, and it just makes it fun, right? Christmas time, I just put like a little Christmas hat thing to just make it pop, right? But it's something that interrupts the pattern, whether that's your own pattern or the pattern of what they're seeing if they're like swiping through or driving down, right? You kind of want to think, that's how you want to think about it as your marketing when it comes to real estate or in general too, right? Next one is going to be 6, which is birds of a feather flock together, right? And this is just like a principle. Can't really do much about this, but it's this idea that people that are like you will be attracted to your content and attracted to your marketing, right? So play with that, right? Like I'm Filipino. Most of the wholesales I've done have been with Filipino people, whether it's Filipino buyers or Filipino sellers. There's nothing I can really do about that. That's just kind of how it works out, right? When it comes to my coaching, I'm usually getting younger people, right? It's very rare. I don't really have anyone over the age of like 45, right? Again, that's just something that happens. And there's not much you can do about it other than to accept it and almost play into it, right? If you speak another language, use that. If you're part of a certain demographic or age group, use that, right? And the easiest way is to just think about, hey, if I'm getting into real estate, I'm looking for deals. What are the things that I'm looking for? That's probably what your ideal client, your ideal buyer or seller is also looking for. So for all the young guys in here, what are some of the struggles that young people have when buying their first house, right? Maybe start educating them. I know a lot of young people, especially the ones that aren't into real estate, they have this idea that they're going to buy like their first house. It's going to be all good. They don't have to do any renos, but they don't want to pay that type of price, right? Now instead, it's like maybe, hey, you start nurturing these people into considering, hey, why not buy a fixer upper that they can do a little bit of renos and show them how to do that process, right? It is going to go very far, and then you can start positioning yourself as a little bit of that leader that does do that, right?
Hey, if you guys have been enjoying Patrick's videos with him sharing his wisdom, make sure to help our channel out by hitting the like and subscribe button. Let us know what videos we should film next in the comment section. And also make sure to check out the links in the description below and apply to get your free personalized real estate roadmap.
Next one is going to be everyone that can invest in growth invests in growth. So I'll repeat that again. It's a little bit of a mouthful, but everyone that can invest in growth invests in their growth. What does that mean? That means that almost everyone is paying for their marketing, right? A term that we use as marketers is going to be your ROAS, ROAS. That's going to be your return on ad spend. And you want to be smart with this in the sense that, hey, if you're going to hire kids or people, I'm going to talk about why I say kids very specifically, to put out your letters and put out your bandit signs, you want to make sure you train them a little bit properly, right? Like put the money in, put the time in, so they are actually cognizant and competent in putting out that marketing, right? Just got a message from another student here. They're asking to do. Yeah, just answering a question there. Cool. But it's this idea that, hey, you want to essentially put a budget on this, right? And begin doesn't have to be a lot, right? Whether it's if you're short on money, then you got to put in a little bit of time, right? So, hey, if you don't have the cash to train these people to put out signs for you, what you can do is you do it yourself, right? If you don't have time to hire a video person and an editor and someone to put like reels and content together, hey, you got to do a little bit of yourself. The beauty is that you don't need fancy camera equipment, right? Our iPhones, this technology is like better than what got us on the moon, right? So just use an iPhone. It's all good. If you want to buy a little speaker or a little mic, that's awesome too. That's fine. But essentially, you just start making that content. If you were to hire someone, the first person I would actually hire is going to be maybe like a virtual assistant or an assistant that can do all of it and that does have an interest on the marketing side. Because like your portfolio, even right now with my portfolio, it's a little bit larger now. But my assistant doesn't do too much of that management, right? That's just organizing the books. She does a little bit of bookkeeping, a little bit of the calls with getting appliances in different places and organizing all that. But when it comes to the marketing side, she's doing a lot more of that, right? Editing the videos, she's able to do that. Making scripts, if necessary, you can do that. And then putting all that together, right? But the idea here is that there's other ways you can invest in your growth. And I don't mean buying followers, right? Because buying followers isn't necessarily going to help you, mostly because we're a pretty niche like subject, right? We're in real estate investing. Specifically, most of us are in Winnipeg. Other people, we have people in New York, we have other people in Kamloops and BC, but you almost want to condense that to where you're at geographically, because that's most likely where you're looking for your deals, right? So something that you can do is paid shout outs, right? So if you're looking for deals aggressively and in your local area, there's like micro influencers is what they call. So you can be like people with, 10K followers or whatnot that are specific, let's say to Winnipeg or the city that you guys are in, and that have a following that's somewhat interested in real estate. Maybe they're a mortgage broker or a realtor, or they're just an entrepreneur, right? Someone who is also interested in connecting to real estate, like business or whatnot. You can get them to do a paid shout out, or you just DM them, be like, hey, how much does it cost? I'm actually looking for a house. Can I do a paid shout out for you? Or here's a piece of content. Can I do a paid shout out for you? That's something that's going to help as well. But essentially, it's this idea that you want to put dollars towards your growth and towards your marketing, but be able to track that, right? So if you have, this is why a ROAS is an important number. So ROAS, return on ad spend, is, okay, how much money did you spend on your ads, on your physical marketing, on your digital marketing, and then how much deals did you actually close, and put a dollar sign on that, right? And as you do this more often, you're going to learn how much it actually costs to close a deal, right? Finally, last one is going to be context over content. So what does that mean? That means it's not necessarily what you say, but it's who says it, right? Now, you're like asking, oh, it's going to be me who says it. Exactly. So what you want is, you want to become more valuable to the listener, or what we like to essentially call is have higher status than the listener, right? Different ways you can add to that. And this is where I'm going to break down the 3 A's. And this is essentially what's called, it's going to be connected to the credibility and connection. So I'm going to share the screen here. There's my whiteboard. Erase this, clear. Awesome. So we have, this is going to be our seesaw. We have credibility. I'm just going to put cred, and then connection. Okay. This is mostly going to be in your digital marketing, because you do this at scale. People get to see your face. In physical marketing, this is going to be more so done while you're negotiating. But it's this idea that you want to establish credibility, but you also want to establish a connection, right? So if you establish just credibility, but you don't really connect with the person, this is like your professional realtor that's trying to sell a house. They don't really, it just becomes too transactional. And online, it almost makes it that you become sort of a cartoon. Like, yeah, you have the credibility, but they don't really feel a connection that you actually care about the other person. So they're not necessarily going to like contact you to like, sell you their house or give you leads. If you have too much connection, just connection and no credibility, it's like, hey, maybe you're opening up, you're sharing all these ideas, and you're like, sharing like your truths, and people are actually connecting to you. They're like, oh yeah, this guy's really human, but they don't see you as a professional real estate investor. Then again, they're not necessarily going to share, deals with you. They're not necessarily going to sell you their house, and they don't think you'll be the best fit. They'll just, I'll just go to a realtor. They're more credible. You want to balance 2 of them, right? So when it comes to credibility, there's going to be a little bit of homework this week. There's going to be the triple A, is what I call it. First A is going to be assets. Talk about that in a second. Next one is going to be advantages. And then finally, association. Association is probably the easiest one. But essentially, all credibility is built off these triple A's. So assets, doesn't necessarily mean physical assets. It can, but the idea here is that these are things that we have, or it could just be what we have. I'm just going to put what we have. It's not necessarily physical things. What we have that others want. Okay. Just going to go through this real quick. Advantages is what we have that, well, I guess it's an asset. So advantages are assets that are unique to us. And an association is who we know and how that is an asset to us. Okay, so those are kind of in general. We'll go through it in detail. So to increase your credibility is you need to have a mix of all of these. I'd say the most important one is going to be advantages though, and a little bit of association, but advantages when we're looking for leads essentially. Um, Assets is what we have that others want, right? So if you're looking for deals, right? Let's say you're looking for distressed sellers, right? Well, we have cash buyers, right? That's an asset. We have the ability to close. We have a pre-approval, right? We have connections to contractors. We have the ability to buy the house as is. These are all the things that we can do or we have that the other person wants. That'll be an asset for us. Advantages is a little bit harder to determine. This is gonna be part of your guys' homework. Advantages are assets. So it's things that we have that other people want still, but that are unique to us. Okay, so an example for me is that I'll use, I have a background in education, right? There are a ton of real estate investors out there, but not many that have a background in education, right? And you see me leverage that for the coaching side, right? Another one is I'm a real estate investor, so people want to be that, but at the same time, I also speak Tagalog, right? I speak Filipino. So that's something that's unique to me. And again, like I mentioned, most of the deals that I've done actually were closed with either Filipino investors or Filipino buyers and sellers.
Hey, if you guys have been enjoying Patrick's videos with him sharing his wisdom, make sure to help our channel out by hitting the like and subscribe button. Let us know what videos we should film next in the comment section. And also make sure to check out the links in the description below and apply to get your free personalized real estate roadmap.
Right. So that's something that's going to be unique to me. Now, is it super unique? Not necessarily. It doesn't have to be like just me that has that, but it's like, what are your assets that only you have, or at least are more unique to you, right? The more unique it is, the better it is. An example, another one is I speak French, right? I've done some negotiation in French, but yet to close a deal in French, right? Next is going to be association, and that's just who you know. And this is going to be a combination of who you know professionally and also personally, right? Like if you have a photo with Robert Kiyosaki, like leverage that, use that, right? Even something as normal as you just having a normal life and normal friends. Like if you're out for dinner, like it is going to sound weird, but eventually people just get used to it. Just be like, hey, can we like shoot a quick video real quick? And then, it's going to be better for you to show that you're with other people and not just alone in your marketing, right? This is why you see me kind of show off the team a little bit. If you have a team, awesome. If you don't have a team just yet, that's all good. Like we have a team right here. Even a quick photo of like this session right here, be like, hey, I'm learning about real estate. That's going to go further than if it's just you, a selfie of you saying, hey, this is what I learned about real estate. Well, there's like, less context in there, less credibility because it's just you. Now, if you're like a world-renowned real estate investor like Grant Cardone, well, you can get away with that because you have a bunch of assets and a bunch of advantages, and you already built a brand. But the homework piece here is going to be after the session, I want you guys to just write down, just brain dump over 5, even 15 minutes, all the assets that you have, all the things that you have that other people want, and start thinking about it different angles, right? Whether it's going to be the angle of young people that want to get into real estate, or is it going to be you have the knowledge on real estate and people like you want that knowledge. They want to invest in real estate, but they don't have the knowledge just yet. They might have the money. Now you can start attracting money partners, right? You want to look at your marketing, because our marketing real estate is looking for deals and looking for money, right? That's the best way to simplify it. Looking for deals, looking for money, right? What are people with money interested in, right? Well, hey, maybe you have the time. Some people with money, they have a bunch of money, they have no time. Well, hey, I have the time. You can literally show them, be with some buddies, drop some letters and be like, hey, like this is what we do for fun. Like I'm looking for leads. If you're someone with money or a friend or family with money, I'd love for you to be a money partner. And hey, I got the time to look for deals. You can be working at home, you can be working at the office. I'll be looking for deals for you, right? Then mix in the advantages to that, sprinkle it in. So it just separates you from everyone else, right? An example that you can use and look into is start looking at who are the other wholesalers in online, right? Like King Kang is one, right? Look at the type of content he's putting up. It's a lot of, regular real estate content, how-tos, examples of testimonials with his deals, but it's also a lot of life stuff, right? This is what I like to call a slice of life, right? Now, King Kang has a Ferrari, so it's going to be a specific advantage to him. None of us have a Ferrari, that's okay. But it's like thinking about it that way. How can I take content that's similar, but add my own personality to it, add your own advantages to it, or go completely left field, right? In the bottom right box, just idea that, hey, for credibility, the side here is assets, advantages, and an association. The more you can mix that, the more you can add to that credibility side. Now for connection, this is mostly where you're going to sprinkle in being human, right? This is where I kind of go back to perfect. It fails, right? Connection is just allowing it to, you can make those mistakes. Even, what's it called? Like bloopers. Like you'll see me post bloopers. That helps make that connection of being human, right? A couple ideas you can use here to be more human is think about your defining moments. Okay, what are these defining moments? So best way to explain this is to give you the counter example. Think about the moment where you were most proud of yourself. Okay? So everyone take a moment, think about, hey, when was the time where you were most proud of yourself? Be something big, something small, doesn't matter, maybe it was when you graduated. Okay, so that moment where you were most proud of yourself, that is not a defining moment, unfortunately. Because unfortunately, that's a good story that you like to tell, but the world doesn't really care, which is kind of weird. I care about those good moments, but the rest of the world does not. Your defining moments are actually going to be the opposite of that. That time where maybe you failed, you went through a struggle, that things didn't go right. And by sharing that, it is going to allow you to make a better connection with people, because people don't like to see a perfect product, like I said. So your best, greatest moment is not necessarily going to be the best that connects to someone. And the reason is they're going to think in their head, so what? What's in it for me? People are a little selfish when they're looking at marketing and content. They want to always connect it back to themselves. But if you share a time where you struggled, well, then they'll be like, oh, they're going to immediately think of, oh, I went through something similar like that. So when you're thinking about your defining moments, there's going to be 3 ways you can think about this. This will be another part of your homework. So first part is list all your assets for the credibility side. I'll give you a second piece for that later on. But the first part is just you want to brain dump all the assets that you have, all the associations, and then maybe some advantages. I'll give you a second tip on how to extract more advantages. But essentially, that's just a brain dump for your credibility. For your connection, you want to brain dump any event or moment where you were called on to fight, called on to participate, or called on to lead. Okay, so that's when were you called into action to fight, to participate, or to lead? A fight is usually when you have to go through something difficult. Participate is where you were called on by other people to go do something. You didn't really want to do it, but you did it anyway. And then called on to lead is where you have to be a leader. Okay, so an example for me was, you probably hear the story all the time, where I was about $9,000 short when I was doing a reno. So I was actually missing that money and had to do it for my mortgages. So I basically had 21 days to find $9,000. So I was basically forced to, hey, I got to do a real estate deal. Luckily I closed it, made 11 grand, and then now it's a story. Okay, but then going into the emotions of how does it feel to be $9,000 short, right? Sharing that with people. Another one is a story I had was another real estate investor tried to slander me, right? They kind of said that, hey, my coaching doesn't really offer value to people. I'm scamming people, not really a real estate investor. And then basically what I did was I just befriended the dude. Like, I was like, hey, like, I forgive you for whatever you said. Like, clearly you don't understand. Like, I have all these students, they're closing deals, they actually get value, they're showing up to meetings. Like, hey, you don't really know me, I don't really know you. So, like, I won't judge, man. Like, you're probably dealing with some stuff. Like, I forgive you. And he actually ended up being more of my friend, right? Another one is
Hey, if you guys have been enjoying Patrick's videos with him sharing his wisdom, make sure to help our channel out by hitting the like and subscribe button. Let us know what videos we should film next in the comment section. And also make sure to check out the links in the description below and apply to get your free personalized real estate roadmap.
tenants were late on paying rent, right? And then I had some employees I had to pay. So then I was dealing with the pressure of, hey, where do I find that money? How do I make payroll? And then the struggle of being an entrepreneur, right? People will connect more to those stories of struggle and when you're tested than they will of your wins, right? So some of the best stories will actually make you not look good on paper, but the connection side to you being a human will actually go further in your marketing, right? So sharing some of the difficulties that you had can go very far. So for this homework piece, I'm going to type this in here, is you want to brain dump the moments where you were called on to, when were the events or moments where you were called to fight, participate, or lead. Try and find 5 at least. And this is going to be like an organic document. Same with your credibility, right? Your assets, advantages, and associations, that's going to grow over time. Your connection, your ability to connect with people, events where you're called on to fight, participate, and lead, that's going to grow over time, right? So maybe you put this on a Google Docs or a Word document. Every time you get new experiences, add them in there, right? Anytime I'm dealing with something difficult, I just think in my mind, this is just a test. This is going to be a connection moment at the end. I'm going to get through this. I study a lot of philosophy and I spent time in the East. So a big philosophy. I don't know if you guys have read the Tao Te Ching. It's just an ancient text. It's pretty good actually. Like I would say that you read it once a year at least. It's pretty short. It's all about like letting go of things. But there's a story where this king asks for, I don't think it's in Tao Te Ching, but it's connected to that idea. But this king is like, he asked one of the monks to make him a gift so that he'll always remember what's important. And the monk gives him a ring, and inside the ring, it says, "This too shall pass." And the king's like, what the heck? Like, why? How is this important? And he's like, whatever happens in your life, look at this ring. Whether it's something good or something difficult, look at the ring. So the king goes through, he's celebrating, he has an awesome party, and then he takes a look at the ring and reads it, and he's like, this too shall pass. It's like, oh, right, yes, this party is awesome, having a great time, but this too shall pass. Then the king deals with the death of one of his sons. So obviously he's mourning, he's in a lot of pain, and he looks at the ring and he says, this too shall pass. So anything good or bad that's happening in your life, that too shall pass. And how I kind of look at this is, hey, if I deal with something difficult, that's just going to be a moment where I can use this to connect as a human, because going through difficult things is just something that's part of being human. And I'll just put into my living document, right? And there's nothing wrong with sharing your stories and these connection moments, these events, more than once, right? What I like to do is have it as a short form story, like, story that I can tell, on a TikTok or something. A medium form story, something that I can tell, the length of, maybe it's a longer post, or the example I use is, I'm having a story I'll tell over lunch or tell over dinner. And then finally, a longer form story where it's the same story, but it's just longer, more details. And that's this type of story I would tell if I was on stage or something, doing a presentation or teaching, something like that. Right. I gave you guys like the short form story of the ring. I could take that ring story, to make it a little longer, make it last like 10 minutes or so. I can also make it even longer, make it last like half an hour to an hour if I really wanted to. And there's all little stories like that. But yeah, so that connection piece is just brain dump. Try to get 5 events at least that you've dealt with in your life where you're called on to fight, participate, or lead. Credibility side now. So again, your homework is to brain dump all your assets, advantages, and associations that are specific to you, to extract more. So there's a second part I was talking about, to extract more advantages, because that's really what's going to separate you, is once you brain dump all your assets, circle all the ones that are specific to you, or go back to each one and see how can you make it more specific to you, right? So example, for me, yeah, I speak Tagalog, I speak Filipino, cool. Like there's other real estate investors, even in this group, that can speak Tagalog. So it's not that much of a unique selling point or a unique advantage. But what I'll add is, hey, my parents didn't allow me to speak English till I turned 18 at home. So now it's a little bit more unique, right? It's like, oh, like, cool, he speaks Filipino, whatever. Oh, he wasn't allowed to speak English till he was 18. That's a little bit more unique selling point, right? Awesome. So that's a little bit of marketing there. It's a lot of content. But general, those are some rules and principles and laws that we use for marketing. And then this is really gonna affect mostly the digital side, but on the physical marketing side, I'd say the first few laws are really going to help a lot more, especially that pattern interrupt. Like that's going to help a lot. The credibility and connection, these are what you could use while you're negotiating, essentially. So that's still, it's not necessarily part of the marketing. It's more so like, hey, once the marketing gets put into place, this is what you'll use once you're actually sitting down with someone. These stories, these connections, building the credibility while you're with the seller, while you're with the buyer, is going to go far as well. And then, yeah, I'm going to exit this, stop the share. And then, are there any questions, comments, critiques, or concerns? We got about 15 minutes or so. But yeah, just got a message here. If you guys have questions, you could either type it in or just to turn off your mute and then just ask for your. Let's see, I'm going to check Facebook because people's got questions on Facebook. Questions there. Raymond, you got a question?
Yeah, is it okay, like, if I have a question, but like non-related to marketing?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I wrote down everything you just said in the homework too, so I'll work on that.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
it's just
no, you can ask. This
yeah,
is free Q&A.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before the meeting, so I wrote down some of my questions, and hopefully you
Nice.
can answer some. Yeah. So I want to ask you, like, usually how you structure a bird deals, like. You found a property and then you get under contract under your name, right? Then you assign it to the JV. Is that right?
Yeah, you can assign it to the JV, or if you're the one, if they're getting financing, I would assign it to the JV. Yeah, and then you go on title after.
Okay. Okay. And for like that, like I'll be on title after the refinance, right? Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
And did the bank, did they look at my eligibility or something? Like I have to be qualified to be on mortgage as well? You think so?
They might, but if the mortgage is on the joint venture and you just go on title afterwards, then you're technically not on the mortgage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So similar, there's something called like bare trust agreement, like they mentioned that part. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And later on, like for cash flow, it's like 50-50 and equity and all that stuff, 50-50 or 60-40 depends.
Depends. Yeah, exactly. Whatever split is agreed between you and your JV partner.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
Just wrote things
exactly.
down. Cool. Anyone had any other questions or otherwise I'll keep asking him.
And you keep going, and then if anyone else has, I think you guys could raise your hand. There should be a button.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can raise your hand, and then I'll go back to you after. But yeah, go
yeah.
ahead, Raymond. What else?
I just have two more questions. The next one is like browsing properties on the MLS for Burr. Like
Hmm.
I went to a couple of houses like for showings with my realtor and all that stuff. You know, practice to analyze the deal. Some of the deal like I went to like the ARV and the number didn't make sense, so I didn't put any offer in there. But like any tips like for me for example like I just done wholesale, but now I want to get into Burr. So yeah, for a newbie, for the bird like me, like when you look, if you were me, like when you look at when you're looking for deals, properties on the MLS right now, like what would you do? Like,
Mhm.
Hey, if you guys have been enjoying Patrick's videos with him sharing his wisdom, make sure to help our channel out by hitting the like and subscribe button. Let us know what videos we should film next in the comment section. And also make sure to check out the links in the description below and apply to get your free personalized real estate roadmap.
on MLS or private marketing. I'm working on a private marketing as well, but how about MLS? Because you
Sure.
said most of your portfolio from MLS, so
MLS is
yeah.
not bad. So right now, specifically, because we're kind of in a transition market,
Mhm.
and I was just talking to a realtor. Just too bad he's not here because he's a new student. But essentially, a lot of listings are expiring, right? Or getting pulled off, right? Because they're asking too high.
Yeah.
So what that tells me is, I always tell students like, don't focus on the asking price because that's not the price that we really care about. We care about our maximum allowable offer, right?
Mhm.
Um, so specific for you and everyone else that's like newer to the Burr, when you're looking at deals on MLS, don't worry too much about that asking price. Analyze the deal, and if the offer makes sense at a lower price, which usually it does, sellers always want more, right? Buyers always want less. What you could do is ask the realtor or put in the offer at the price that makes sense for you, right? It doesn't hurt to put in the offer. Now, if it's
Mhm.
like, 100 grand less, it's going to be a little difficult, right? Like I got a lead today. It was like for 220,000 in St. Vital,
Mhm.
but essentially, oh, Genesis is here. Awesome. Just not on Zoom. Cool. I can't see on Facebook. Facebook changed their like their settings or whatever. So I can't really like see who's on there on the Facebook side. But anyway, this idea that, hey, because there's that discrepancy in price, there's nothing wrong with putting in the low ball offer, right? Worst case scenario, it doesn't get accepted, right? But if it does get
Mhm.
accepted, now you got a deal, right? So it's
Yeah.
always focusing on analyze the deal, what makes sense on your maximum allowable offer, and then put that offer in, right? Even if the seller on paper is marketing that they want, 220,000, but it makes sense for you at 175, why not put an offer at 172 and see if it bites?
Mhm.
Sometimes if you're like, the deal's okay. If I don't get it, doesn't really matter. I'm not like too keen on the deal. I would just put in your best foot forward.
Mhm.
Sometimes it doesn't make sense to just put in your maximum allowable offer. If they counter, be like, I'm not interested anymore. But sometimes I go a little bit lower, so there is room to negotiate. So it's
Mhm.
like, hey, my maximum allowable offer is 175,000. Maybe I'll put an offer at 173, 172. They come back, I'll be like, okay, well, let's do 175. That's the best I can do. Right.
Okay. Yeah. Follow up question for that. Like
Yeah.
usually, the most recent properties like I looked at, like analyzed, and I usually brought my realtor and my contractors coming with me.
Yeah.
And I'm learning things like what needs to be repaired and all that stuff. So when you put the offer, do you like actually have to come to see the property first before you put the offer, or you just see thing analyze and put the offer right away, and then after that you bring your contractor in later?
Good question. So
Yeah, because
you can,
I've been looking at 3 properties and none of them
yeah,
work. So I don't
right,
want to bother my realtor and my contractor. So
right, yeah, yeah, no worries. Um, yeah, it depends. Like I've bought homes sight unseen, right?
oh,
You can do it. It's something that's a little bit more advanced, right?
mhm,
So if you do intend to put an offer in sight unseen, make sure you put conditions that allow you to, get out if it's not exactly what you wanted, right? So example, one condition or yeah, one condition I'll use is like buyer has a right to enter the home for contractor measurements, but another
mhm,
one will be like subject to inspection and approval, or like subject to approved or satisfactory inspection.
mhm,
Satisfactory inspection is better, actually. And the reason for that is, hey, it might look good on paper, it might look good in the photos, but then when you get there, you might be like, oh, like this is not like the photos. And then there's actually a lot more work. So,
yeah,
well, now you do an inspection, doesn't pass the inspection, you can back out of the deal, right?
okay,
Usually I only do sight unseen when I'm very confident in the price and I'm very confident in the area and I'm very
mhm,
confident in that type of home. So the last time I did a sight unseen deal was so this was like, I think 2021, might have been even 2020. But anyway, this is when there's like bidding wars, essentially. I had a deal pop up on my street. It was like literally a block away. So I live on Sherburne. I know that area very well. I grew up there my whole life.
mhm,
And for some reason, they didn't have an offers date. It was just offers as received. So literally it was on market for like 7 minutes. I said, okay, told my realtor, hey, let's put an offer on it. Here's the price. I just gave them my maximum allowable offer. I was like, if I don't get it, whatever. If they want to like continue shopping, that's all good. He's
mhm,
like, are you sure? He's like, hey, let's put in a subject to satisfactory inspection just in case. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's go there. Check it out. And if it passes, let's just put in a clean offer.
mhm,
So put it in, because there's no offers date, it gets put in as pending, right? We go check out the place. I'm like, hey, exactly what I thought it was. Didn't actually needed less rentals than I expected. And like, I was
mhm,
actually kind of worried. I was like, oh, how do I add value to this? I looked at the basement. Oh, I could add egress window. Cool. Let's just do that. And then got the house and essentially was able to, I think we got it for it was 252. And then I did like $8,000 worth of renos, and then it appraised at 315 after. So it was a quick,
mhm,
easy deal. All I did was literally the maintenance, some
mhm,
patch and paint, paint the outside, just the window siding, and then put in an egress window. And then I put in a basement room, so I learned how to like frame up and put in a room, do some drywall. It was super easy. It took like less than 3 weeks.
mhm,
But I only did that because again, I was very confident area, very confident type and year of house, and it was a specific time, right? Like I was basically like, oh, like if this sits long, people like to move in this area. It's gonna make sense for a first-time home buyer. I'm just gonna get in, right?
mhm. Cool, awesome.
Sweet. Been enjoying the chat. Awesome. Any other questions, comments, critiques, or concerns? So one's on Facebook. You guys can also type questions in there. Cool. Sweet.
Yeah,
For a
maybe
sec.
last question for me. If
Yeah, sure.
no
Go
one
ahead.
has it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, as you know, you like when you get like when I'm getting started right now, like if I have no track record, like I've done like about wholesale deals, so that's
Mm,
okay, like some track record there. But like to raise capital from investors, like even though I haven't done any bird deals, like
mm.
what's your tips, or advice, like what should I do
Mhm.
and when it comes to raising capital and persuade them, like put 20% down payment and renovation money
Mhm.
and all that stuff. Yeah.
Sweet. So yeah, because you haven't had like you have a track record with closing deals, not
Yeah.
specific to burrs just yet.
Mhm.
I would go into really leveraging that you've closed those deals and then
Mhm.
explain to them what your plan is for the burr, right?
Mhm.
Meaning, hey, this is what I've done. I've been able to get these leads. Now the goal now is to keep these leads that I get and then actually keep it as a rental. Um,
Mhm.
Hey, if you guys have been enjoying Patrick's videos with him sharing his wisdom, make sure to help our channel out by hitting the like and subscribe button. Let us know what videos we should film next in the comment section. And also make sure to check out the links in the description below and apply to get your free personalized real estate roadmap.
the first time is always going to be a lot more difficult. So I'd
Yeah.
say you just need again volume, right? A lot of these meetings and have a script, right?
Mhm.
Have a script of like, hey, how are you going to explain the burr? How are you going to explain? Go into like first start off what they want, right? Maybe you've seen me talk about this is similar to like I made a video of how to make money in the DMs, but it's a similar type of framework I use, right? So once I get on a call with them, I just ask, hey, what's their situation in real estate? Like, why would they want to lend out money instead of doing deals themselves? Maybe they don't
Mhm.
have enough yet. You want to build up that capital. Maybe they want to learn with you, right? Like learning how to do these deals. But what's their situation? Then it's okay, what are their goals? Like how much money are they trying to make in the next few years? Do they want to buy their own deals later on? Um, what's their goal when it comes to money and real estate and their life, right? I have
Mhm.
some clients where, hey, they just want extra passive income to pay for their kids' like activities, like their extracurricular activities, right? I have another investor. He has done enough real estate trading, like basically the same program I did, but just doesn't want to deal with rentals. He's like, hey, you can deal with that. I just want the passive money. I don't care about equity. I just want, money that comes in every month. And then that's
Mhm.
how I want to do it. I'm like, cool. And that makes sense. So first is their situation, then their goals. Then I ask, hey, what do they think is missing? Like, what's missing to help them reach those goals? Oh, we need a little more income. Oh, we need ways to make money, but without having to work, whatever the issue is. What do they think they need? Okay. If they're contacting you, they're probably like, hey, like we need some passive income. Usually that's why they're contacting you
Mhm.
or us as investors. Is this a priority for them? This gives you like how long of a timeline? Can they give you that check tomorrow? Or is it going to take, maybe it's not a priority just yet. Maybe they go on vacation. It's something for next month. Put that in your agenda, follow up later. And then, hey,
Mhm.
do you want to help? If they say yes, do they want you want your help? Then, hey, this is what I've done. That's when you go and kind of into your offer. Now, it's important that you have a script. And for you specifically, Ray, because you've done the wholesaling, I would go into talk about the wholesaling you've done very quickly, like 30 seconds to a
Yeah.
minute. Explain the burr, that's your plan, and be like, hey, I'm ready to offer this amount for return on your money, right? Your
Mhm.
offer should only take maximum, I'd say 3 to 5 minutes. Even 5 minutes is getting a little further, right?
Mhm.
3 minutes, 2 minutes, that's that sweet spot. And that's why a script is important, right?
Yeah.
Because if you start freestyling, you get like sidetracked, and then now your
Mhm.
offer is taking too long. And the other person on the other end of the line is always thinking, what's in it for me? Right.
Yeah.
So
True.
if your offer takes too long, now they're getting bored. They're like, oh, what the heck? Like it's kind of wasting my time. But
Mhm.
that 2 to 3 minute sweet spot is going to be key. And that's why having that what's it called? That offer script ready. So the game plan is essentially leverage your wholesaling. This is what I do. This is what I'm trying to do. And then finally, this is the offer I have. So like, hey, like 10 grand for 10% or 20
Mhm.
grand for 11%, whatever it is.
Mhm. And what would you say, like, for convince people to put a 20% down payment and on the mortgage title? Like, I understand, like, for the private money, like, get 15, 10% interest money. that's passive income. But like, how do you convince, or what the benefit of people when you're trying to convince them like to be on to be on a title for the bird deal,
Yeah.
like 50% equity, get all the investment money back and have the house for free. I think so. I think is that right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah. So
like
if you're
like
going
benefit,
towards
like
the money
Mhm.
partner side, the big benefit is they get 50% of the property, and then you'll be the active
active
investor. So like
investor. Yeah.
even after you'll do your property management, you'll take
Mhm.
care of that. I would also add on, just so like you get money along the way, is to
Mhm.
add a management fee, right? So this is
Management
something I
fee.
learned from Denzel. Once you
Mhm.
do um, joint ventures at scale,
Mhm.
you want to take a management fee. So as you're doing renos, you get paid once a month. So that means like you're still getting paid and you're not just bleeding out the whole time, right? Because like sometimes these deals can take like 6 months, right? And if you're not getting paid at 6 months, especially for like it's a little bit the case is a little bit different with Denzel and I because we're like both full time. But if we don't get paid while doing a deal for 6 months, like that's really going to affect like our payroll. It's going to affect
Yeah.
like how like where do we get our food to eat, right? Like yeah, we have the
Mhm.
rental portfolio, but there's a difference when you're actively managing something, right?
Yeah.
So add that in. It doesn't have to be a lot, right? Like depending on how big the scope of work is, it could be, $1,000 a month to like 300, $600 a month. It just depends how often you're there.
Mhm.
Rule of thumb I use is like, hey, if it's just property management, that's like about 10% of rent. So it's like anywhere from 100 to $200 a month. Well, think about how often you really have to work for property management. It's not that much, right? In the grand scheme of things, one house property managed, it's about, if there's 30 days, it's about like $3.33 a day, right?
Mhm.
But if you're actively managing a reno, then that's different. It's going to be a lot more active. So maybe it's like $30 a day. If you're there for an hour each day, hey, your time's
Mhm.
worth around $30 at least as a property or a project manager, at least, right? So then that adds up to X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
We've got a question to chat. Let me put this up. So Calvin asks, in a JV, who essentially owns the property? Both, right?
So
So in a joint venture, that's where you want to have that contract and agreement clear of that you guys both own the property, right? I've seen more complicated joint venture contracts. And one of the deals I actually missed out on was it's 50-50 with the passive partner having the option to get their money back and take their equity in 5 years, right? So it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be forever, right? So it could be like, hey, we joint venture on this house. You're the active manager. You do everything. I'm the passive investor. I just bring my down payment and renovation money, or down payment and financing, or just financing, whatever it is. But in 5 years, I get the option to take my initial capital out plus any growth that we had, any kind of appreciation, plus maybe a little bit of interest. And then now I just get my cash. They keep 100% of the property afterwards. So it is going to depend on how you structure it. Usually it's 50%, 50%, active partner and then passive partner. Sweet. Cool. Any other questions, comments, critiques, or concerns? I'm checking Facebook here too.
Yeah, maybe it's my last question. So what if I have the rental fund? I'm just looking for someone like to put 20% down payment and and to be on title on a mortgage. Like, so if that's the case, so like in terms of structure a deal, like it wouldn't need to be 50-50. It could be
It wouldn't
40-60. I just
exactly.
need a person on mortgage,
Mhm.
other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't have to be 50-50 in your case because you're
Yeah,
bringing more than 50%, right? Like
value.
you're going to bring renovation plus doing the deal, plus
Mm,
bringing the deal and managing it. So yeah, it could be like 60-40. Sometimes to make it like more logical for the other person, I'll actually break down like the cost, like how much is actually expected down payment, how much is actually expected for the renovation money.
Yeah.
And
So
then that way you can have like a split.
that's what I thought. Like, I want to get my first bird deal, so I can raise money for reno. I'm just looking for someone on the mortgage to put that 20% down. So it's easier to raise money as a new investor
Yeah.
to do. But that's my thought. So yeah. Awesome.
Exactly. Sweet. Ben asks, you can have JV deals that borderline the investor side of this. No.
Hey, if you guys have been enjoying Patrick's videos with him sharing his wisdom, make sure to help our channel out by hitting the like and subscribe button. Let us know what videos we should film next in the comment section. And also make sure to check out the links in the description below and apply to get your free personalized real estate roadmap.
Yeah, you can have, I think I understand what you're asking is where it benefits the investor side more. You can definitely do that, especially if the investor is bringing more in. It's just really thinking about who's bringing more to the table, right? I'm a little biased when I coach you guys in that the investor, the one that brings the deal, should get a little bit more. And that's why I say, like, hey, if you're the active one, you bring the deal and you manage it, that's enough for 50-50, right? Like, you don't have to bring money if you bring a good deal and you manage it, right? If you're bringing a good deal, you manage it, and you're bringing, let's say, the down payment, that's more than half, right? Like, realistically, someone is just putting a down payment and they're getting financing, like, for a person with a job, like, that's pretty easy, right? Like, what are you really bringing to the table? You're bringing, money, which I know is important. On the flip side, if you're the one financing the deal, like, I'm going to always want half, right? Like, if I'm the one bringing all the money, and even if I just bring all the money and not get financing, I'm still going to ask for half. But that's because I'm a little bit more of a sophisticated investor. I know that there's still a risk on putting my name on title and whatnot. Ben asked that and a 3-year buyout option for the JV money partner. Yeah, you can have a 3-year buyout option, a 5-year buyout option, a 1-year buyout option. It's really how you structure that. Nice breakdown percentage on JVs and responsibilities. Yeah, exactly. You want to almost break it down. And the clearer it is, the better it's going to be, so that everyone kind of knows what's going on and it's in the agreement.